Back on. Should President Obama send arms to Ukraine, or is this a European problem that we should stay out of? Yes, it is. Next question. Marianne, you ran as an independent last fall. What are the limits of our current two-party system?
Well, I think that, you know, George Washington, first of all, in his farewell address, warned us against parties, period. And in the history of social justice, particularly in real change in the United States, third-party voices have been extremely important. Abolition movement came out of the Abolitionist Party. Women's suffrage came out of the Women's Suffrage Party.
They're always absorbed by one of the two parties.
But it's important that you have that third.
Yeah.
And so there is really kind of conspiracy that's lasted for a few decades now to marginalize and make very, very difficult to be heard third-party voices. And I think it's to the detriment of our political dialogue.
Okay. Amy, what's your opinion on Fox News and others choosing to post on their website the recent ISIS video?
I'm very conflicted about that. I think it's disrespectful to the pilot and to his family. Yet, on the other hand, to see the reality of what ISIS is capable of. Personally, I would not be able to watch the video. I've, seen the links to beheading videos. The one I clicked and I started to hear the gurgling. I had to shut it off. I just cannot have those images in my mind.
We should also be showing the atrocities that are committed by my government and your government. And by the Saudi regime, which we support, arm and fund every day.
Speaking of all the horror that we have, these beheadings, this is what war is. I wish we had felt more of this horror in a more sober thinking about whether or not to even go into a war. These atrocities happen every day, and some of them happen from...
Well, I mean... We punish our war crimes. There's nothing remotely comparable to the kind of
Henry Kissinger is a lauded and revered person and one of the worst criminals in the United States. You don't punish your war criminals, I'm afraid. But
I disagree with the war. He's not a war criminal. He didn't go out intentionally
well, you want to talk to the people of Chile about that. But the, I interviewed... It relates to what you were saying, because I interviewed a lot of former jihadis in Britain who'd become jihadists and had stopped, and it was very interesting. Overwhelmingly, they became jihadis when our governments were committing atrocities against their people, and they stopped because ordinary Western people were decent and kind to them, and they thought, I can't support attacking these people. The more aggressive we are... There's some jihadism, you're totally right, that is just spontaneous, vile religious mania, right? That's real, that exists. The more aggressive and abusive we are in response, the more that grows. The more we show ourselves to be good and loving and decent people, the more it diminishes. We've got to look at the evidence.
And that's why the drone strike. That's why the drone strike.
Kumbaya.
How do you feel about watching that video?
I don't listen to the guests. I'm sorry.
No, what do you think?
No, I don't think we need it. I think we get it about ISIS. I think that's not true.
That's what
I mean, it's obvious that America has also burned people alive from the air. I mean, in World War II. But, I mean, World War II was...
Not just World War II. The drone attacks on Pakistan are incinerating children all the time, And that's the current President Obama.
It is a little different. It is a little different. Collateral damage is a little...
Burning him to death.
That's right. The collateral damage is a different...
That's the line that separates the barbarians.
Which, Jeremy Cahill, one of your former guests, has documented. That's pretty atrocious, and that was done by
America is certainly not guilt-free, but I don't think we're the moral equivalent of ISIS. No, I don't.
I don't think he's saying that.
There are crimes committed in peace, there are crimes committed in war, but we go to our utmost to try and minimize those casualties. That's, I mean, there have been Americans...
Well, not always.
In Afghanistan, the rules of engagement were written in such a way that there are American men who are dead today because they followed attempts to protect civilian lives.
At the end of World War II, before we dropped the atom bomb, we wiped out from 50 to 90% of the population of Japan's biggest 60 cities. That's some serious shit.
Sure, but you don't need to go so far back, Bill. Sanctions against Iraq, even forget Bush's war. Sanctions against Iraq, 500,000 children died as a result of those sanctions. If you blockade medicines from going into a country, huge numbers of people die. That's very recent. These people we're talking about, ISIS, who are disgusting and barbaric, they remember that. If you want to know why these people are attacking them, some of it is spontaneous religious bigotry, some of it is responding to atrocities we don't even remember.
I have an important question here.
There's a reason we're not in the International Criminal Court.
Okay. What do you think of Pete Carroll's play call at the end of the Super Bowl? Can we get to something that matters? Oh, you know what?
Over to you on that.
Be very controversial right here. I think a pass play was the right call, but not that pass play. If you pass at that point, you stop the clock. No, seriously. Look at the play. if he had run the ball, Marshawn Lynch got stuffed 4 to 5 times on the 1-yard line in the last season. And if you run the ball and you get stuffed, you burn your last timeout. You don't have 2 more timeouts. I know I'm on the minority right here.
I remember watching the game, and at the end of the first half, there was like a few seconds left, and they had an automatic field goal, and they chose to go for the touchdown. And as they were doing that, everybody at my party was like, "This is a stupid call. What an idiot! What a genius!" And I mean, that pass, it was 6 inches, and it would have been a completion. The guy made a great play. It's a chess game. They were all stacked up, so he went for this thing. This is what these people do 24/7. I just want to know, all these people who say it's the worst call ever, if it had worked, which it could have, would they have said, you know, it worked, but it's still the worst call ever?
I say it's a 1 in 400 chance that that ball is intercepted, and it was intercepted. That's we should remember how amazing that play was and what an amazing finish to that game.
Right, okay. Janet, assuming that the Supreme Court rules in favor of the right to marry, are you concerned that all other LGBT issues will then fall from America's consciousness?
No, I think that it's been the flagship issue for the LGBT community, but it only helps just a portion of the LGBT community. I'm looking forward to the day when all different kinds of families are recognized, of course, but I think that there's other dire daily access issues, specifically if you're talking about trans people, the violence that trans women, specifically trans women of color, face. I know just in LA alone in the past 3 months, there's been 4 murders of black trans women, and I think that that's something that's...
There is a lot of violence, right?
Oh, there's tons of violence, and I think so much of it is linked to the idea that women are not valued, people of color are not valued, and trans people are often invalidated within our society. And so when you throw that all into one person's body, there's a lot of targeting that comes in that space. And so I think that we need to have a national outrage over these bodies that are often no one's really protecting and taking care of.
Now maybe I'm wrong, but I thought the violence came from because the transgender person didn't tell the guy about the past, and then the guy kissed her or something, and then they found out, and he was like, "Oh, now I'm a homo."
No. A lot of it is just based on street harassment. If you're walking down the street as a trans woman and a guy catcalls you, and that level of violence that any woman kind of deals with on the street just through verbal violence, it escalates when you're discovered that you're trans. Men then get upset.
How does that discovery happen?
Just through, someone could just look. You know, I don't know how people read people, how they discover that someone's trans, but this happened in Harlem just last. Maybe there's some kind of essence that one gives off, but I don't really know how to unpack how cisgender people tend to look at trans people. But I know that in Harlem last year,
I could never tell looking at you.
Well, yeah. Well, that's a label. Thank you, but that's a level of that. Well, you know, thank you. But that's just
It's a compliment.
Well, that's something that kind of it enables me to go into spaces without having to be checked, without having to deal with violence and harassment.
Right.
But that's not the reality for a lot of trans people, and you shouldn't have to look like me in order to have a level of safety in our culture.
But if you were dating someone, say, I mean, would you tell them right away?
Well, I've been dating people since I was 16 years old. I'm engaged now. I put a ring on it. But.
You go, girl.
Okay, let's not do that.
See how hip I am? I know. I know these modern phrases.
But I think it just matters on the level of intimacy in the relationship. If someone I'm just going to have coffee with, no, I'm not like, hey, I'm Janet. But, you know, if we're...
now you're famous, but I mean, if you weren't...
Well, yeah, now it's completely out of the bag.
It's out of the bag,
you can Google.
All right. Do the Republicans have any real plan to replace Obamacare, and what would that look like?
You know, the guy who founded the war on drugs once said, "I've made up my mind, don't try to confuse me with the facts." And I kind of think that should be not only the logo for the war on drugs, but basically the broader Republican approach to almost all health issues, you know.
Ooh, you just threw down the gauntlet over there.
There are a lot of plans out there. There's one by Tom Coburn and Richard Burr. I'd say that they're more well-formed than Democratic plans were before they took the White House. So I think.
And what is the essence of them?
I mean, there's subsidies, but they're less generous. There are fewer mandates to make it cost less.
But without mandates, you really can't get.
Well, I think the real problem with Obamacare is that all the mandates that are requiring every certain thing to be covered. I think that once you when you can't have a stripped down plan like an HSA, it just makes it cost that much more.
The real problem is this is the richest country in the world, and it's the only country in the developed world that doesn't provide health care for all of its citizens. That's a disgrace. Americans deserve better.
We're getting
Because
we're a lot closer than we used to be.
the question becomes not just what are the Republicans going to do, but what are the Democrats going to do? They wouldn't allow a public option. We need to have the conversation about single payer. We need to have spine around that conversation and to know that if we're government of the people, by the people, for the people, primary there should be universal health care.
Right. Thank you, everybody. Thank the panel. Thank you, audience.